All right, beautiful humans, welcome back to another episode of LebTalks under this whole Naked Sunday bit. We're walking ourselves into a little Summer Lovin series. And over these next couple episodes, I'm basically focusing on the three key components in life for the summertime. So we're thinking about self-care, i.e. your health. We're thinking about your relationships, and we're thinking about your business, your work life. I don't like talking about work-life balance, but and then I'll sum it up into one final episode around that. But we're gonna have a bunch of other fun things. This is through the summer because this is an interesting season. I think most people look at the summertime as a season of prosperity, but a lot of times we also are not taking a bigger picture look at how to make sure that we can stay stable enough. So by the time the fall time, the autumn comes around, and the new hustle and bustle of life and school and kids and comes back into play. There's an interesting freedom about summertime. There's an interesting sense of success. There's I'm off from school. My kids are having their new schedules, and there's a lot of flexibility. And in many times in life, like that's what we really seem like we want. Success to most people is time freedom. Well, the idea of time freedom. Most people don't understand what that means. Not something I'm going to go into right now. But let's get into this. Let's talk about our self-care, our health, mental, emotional, physical, things of that nature. When it comes to Summer Lovin, like many people have waited all year long to just purge and binge, and kind of like this extreme example of like feeling that success, feeling their feels. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. There's like, we're going through this human experience. Let's have some fun. We don't know what's coming next. To just suffer aimlessly seems a little bit pointless to me. And happiness is knowing how to integrate those experiences within yourself. So let's open this up. As we consider health, and this is probably my greatest area of expertise in all things, it's really the relationship to oneself. We need to take a look at our mental, physical, and emotional. If I was to say mental, think of your brain, think about like that cognitive function. I think about still feeling inspired. When I think emotional, I really think more spiritual, things you feel, that connection to like a deeper sense of self and purpose. But then physical, it seems like the obvious. Don't destroy your body. What's important here is to set, if I was going into my summertime, which as I'm doing this, it is going into summertime, it's still maintaining simple objectives and understanding what is your goal at the end of summer. How do you want to come out of it? Because most people are so burnt out by this point, they haven't even taken a peek to say, what am I going to do for the next few months? You still need to maintain the other things. Otherwise, you go back to this deep ebb and flow, crash, burn, climb cycle with your health. If you haven't already, maybe this is the time for you to assess what would be your minimum effective dosage in all of these things. What are the minimums you need to make sure that your health stays in a certain place? Is there a certain body weight? For the record, everybody, body weight and body composition are pretty important thing. Whether people want to, that's going to ruffle your feathers or not is another story, but that's an important thing for your overall function. It's usually a pretty decent indicator on some things from a baseline. If you're carrying extra weight on your body, it's going to affect your ability to go out and just like go to the beach and enjoy certain experiences. It's going to slow you down in many ways if it's not being used functionally for you. So understanding what does a physical practice during the summer look like? Maybe it's not going to be locked in the square, the 4 square walls of a gym. Maybe you're going to look to more fruitful experiences outdoors. Maybe you're going to apply it differently. Maybe you have some of those mud run type of ideas. Maybe you have some of those other adventures. Maybe you're going to climb more. Use your body in more expressive ways. Maybe you're going to swim more. Maybe you're going to plan more adventurous activities. These would be cool things to do, but still keep in mind, there's got to be a baseline threshold that got you to this point. That'd be advantageous for you right now to explore. If this is your first time doing this, explore what is the minimum. What are the baseline things you need to do every single week to still keep your body within the range that is acceptable for you to still work and function at a good capacity, so that you also don't have a massive climb coming out of the summer. This is just a little bit of preparation. It's going to be a little due diligence, a little extra work right now. But at the end of the summer, when you're feeling distraught and feeling like you lost a lot, so this is a deeper form of love, to really ask yourself, what do you want? And to be honest about what you need after this, not just for right now. You're basically putting a budget on your health expenses here, from what does the amount of experience you want. Or if you're a big fan of ice cream or traveling or dining out certain ways, or certain types of physical experiences you want to go to, write those basics down. Write the fundamentals down. How many experiences would you like to engage in? What is it going to take for you to do those physical experiences? A lot of people get caught up on like these extreme adventures, outdoor adventure activities, without even realizing, like, is their body even prepared for it? So that's important to note, because if you go off to one of these things because everybody has peer pressured you into it and you haven't taken care of yourself, guess what? You're going to show up, you're going to probably get yourself injured, or you're going to take you forever to recover, or it's going to affect your habits and your behaviors the week after. You might want to consider that. It's not to say you can't do it, but is it responsible? And it's also not to say maybe just it's not right now the time to do it, so that you can best enjoy that experience. Maybe it's next year. Maybe it's a new thing to plan for. You don't have to do it all right now. You can space it out. Remember, you want to love every day of your life. Enjoy it. And sometimes it's going to be more uncomfortable than others, and that's okay. But asking yourselves these bare minimums is important. So maybe you might set some bare minimum thresholds of, I'm going to make sure that I'm getting my appropriate hydration levels. I'm going to make sure I'm walking X amount every day. Maybe you'd have your 3 to 5 exercises you like to do that are just more maintenance type of work. You're not trying to break any land speed records those days in a metaphorical sense. Maybe on a couple of days where you're doing a race or you're having some fun like that, yeah, you're going to push yourself a little bit more. But remember, you also have a job and a family and other things in your life that you need to account for. So understand that you are going to pull from one to be able to do another. How much you want to pull is also important. Keep those things in mind. Understand those bare minimums. That just might be your health. So again, it might be something like steps, hydration. What are the types of foods you're going to keep around you? What days of the week are you going to look at adjusting your nutrition? It's not to say you can't have certain foods. What if I'm a big fan of ice cream. I think everybody who's ever known this about me, I love ice cream. But I do know that certain foods past a certain quantity doesn't make me feel so great. So things like dairy or alcohol, usually some grain products, don't really act well with me at this point in my life. I don't deny myself those things, but I do ask myself, how much do I want? And I have a threshold where I know that I'm going to spend that time. And if I have an event where I might be a little looser around some of those ideas, cool. And then I just know that other weeks, maybe the following week, I need to just be a little bit more diligent about being aware for that. Because I also just don't want to feel like garbage in my body, because I know it's going to affect me when I still have clients to work with, or have to do other responsibilities for my work, or if I want to be present for my friends and my family and whomever it is that I want to be aware. If I'm feeling congested in myself and I feel like I'm always just tired and groggy, I don't feel good. I don't bring my best version of myself. So I take those into account while still not denying myself the amount of experiences I want. I like to dine out. Well, I also want to make sure that I'm not spending an arm and a leg just dining out all the time. Okay, what are those things? So start there. That'd be your physical health. Then take a peek into your mental health. This is more about being like sharpening the saw, making sure that you're still being intellectually stimulated. Are you doing your reading? Are you doing your journaling? Are you doing your conferences? What are the things that you like to do that stimulate your mind? How are you being creative? Is it your hobbies? Is it playing music? Is it writing? Is it whatever it is? How much do you need to be doing? Maybe it's adjusted during this time period because there's more flexibility. You're going to maybe give more time to your family because they're around. Awesome. That's cool. But still make sure that your brain is still being nurtured and motivated. What's the minimum? What's the minimum that will allow you to stay consistent enough so you're not going to be in a deficit, in a debt at the end of the summer? You still want to love yourself all the way through. You don't need to do the crash diet approach. You do not. I promise you, it'll work out better this way. Your own inner wisdom knows this. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. So that should give you some confidence. And the final piece, be your emotional health, might be your spiritual health. What types of conversations do you need to be having? Do you still have, maybe you're going to therapy, or you have a spiritual practice that you engage in, you're praying, you're meditating, something that's grounding your emotions. A lot of times we just forget to do the things that worked well for us. That go back to doing those things, but how much for this phase are you going to try? Personally, I'm the best, working at my best when I have 3 to 5 hours of just me time to work on my physical and mental, emotional health per day. I recognize that that's not always the case, that I'm not capable of doing that, just the way stuff might show up. So I'll give you a perfect example. I have one stretching routine that, when it's all said and done, usually takes about 40 minutes. Well, that was doing like 3 minutes a clip for each one of the exercises. Okay. I started to ask myself, what would be the minimum amount that I could do to still make progress, or at least not go backwards? And how many days a week would I need to do that? I came out to a spot where it ended up being where I could get it down to like about 15, some closer to 20 minutes. And it was like usually like 30-second clips of each thing. I could do that. I could get that solved. That was really beneficial to me. And that would be a couple days a week. That was to just not go backwards. So it was great. So I wasn't starting back from 0. I was just starting from, if I was on a scale to 100, maybe I was staying at 10. Okay. I was starting again at 10, but in the fall time, when schedules change again, because it's a new season and new things come up and new opportunities, what have you, I could start back from that platform. I have a base to build on. My foundation didn't crumble. I might notice that my minimum effective dosage changes over time because of whatever circumstance. That's okay. This is learning. So take the opportunity right now for your self-care. And again, self-care, you can call it health if you want to just reframe that. This is helping you from an individual standpoint look better naked internally. That's your mental and emotional, spiritual, and even physical, because your insides also look a certain way when it's not healthy. And then externally, when you take care of yourself, crazier things happen. Your complexion looks better, you lean out, you 6-pack abs, all that other fun stuff happens. But if you're not being diligent about this as you go into the summer, when most people are most exposed, you're going to the beach, your clothes come off, all that stuff, you're feeling a certain kind of way. But most people use it as a rampant excuse to just binge on booze and get lazy and do whatever. And it makes sense, because if you've just been grinding your face off all year long, all you want to do is just unplug for a bit. If you can dial back and not dissociate, be more intentional about how you're going to calibrate for this period of time, you're going to set yourself up for that greater success when life continues to go on. Like, life is going to keep moving on. It's going to happen. You're going to go back to it. How do you want to go back to it? So start with that end in mind. At the end of the summer, you'll have a couple of months, whenever this is opening up. You can do this in every season. Happens to be Summer Lovins. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to love yourself through the summer. You're going to allow yourself to set these frameworks in place, which is really growing. It's growing in a different way by just organizing yourself and laying the foundation for an accelerated growth to come during the springtime. Those are all my thoughts right now, my friends. I hope you enjoyed this little perspective. So your homework going away, your takeaway from this is look at those 3 pieces of your self-care, of your health. What are your minimum effective doses for your physical practices, habits? What are your minimum effective dosage for your mental habits or mental clarity, your cognitive function? And what is your minimum effective dosage for your emotional well-being, your spiritual health, how you feel internally and mentally and emotionally, all those things, how you're feeling connected? Do those things, set those bare minimums, and then also give yourself a breather, say like, This is an experiment. You're going to see how this season goes, this go around. You will learn from it. You'll adjust next season. A year from now, when you come back to the summer, you'll have new data to come back to and say, oh, well, this worked, but this thing I could change. This is your first time going through it. It's your first iteration. So take the shame, guilt piece off of that. You're not going to get it perfect. You're going to make an estimation off of what you know best right now, and do your best, and do your best to hold to it, so that you can at least say, after consistently doing this for this season, I understand this about myself. And if you come out of the summer with one lesson on this, you'll have that lesson for the rest of your life. And you can apply that foundational lesson and that foundational knowledge for the rest of your life in this arena as well as other arenas. So it's the gift that keeps on giving, but you got to be consistent and you got to be honest. And you got to be willing to plan a little bit. So those are my thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this first iteration of this Leb talk of Summer Lovin, physical, self-care, mental health, whatever you want to call it. Hope you enjoyed it. Share it with somebody who needs some help with their own stuff. Somebody else who's preparing for that summer and wanting to make the most of it. Those are all my thoughts right now. Until next time, I remind you to love everybody.